Good evening, everyone. And this is Naishad Gadani coming to you from Melbourne. It's not a usual time for me to come at 3 p.m. Usually I arrive on your LinkedIn screen, but today at 8 p.m. because we have got a special guest all the way from Canada. And we are going to talk about how to change your life for better with radical self acceptance. It's a topic that is probably more important in these COVID 19 times, but regardless of these times, we feel that self acceptance or accepting yourself as you are is still going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge, in post COVID era, for many years to come. But what we want to do is to unpack this and unpack, me and Caroline, can unpack this as well. But we wanted to bring a guest who has really, done some remarkable work on herself, and then achieved some remarkable status in Canada. So that's why we got Devina Kaur all the way from Canada, and it's 6 a.m. her time, which is 8 p.m. our time. So that's fantastic. Before we get Devina, let's welcome Caroline Brown, the co-host of the show.
Thanks, Nation. It's fantastic to be here. So, Davina, really delighted and to have you here. And I was reading your blogs and I watched the video of Millionaire Matchmaker, and I just thought, how much fun are we going to have tonight, basically? But yeah, Davina's an author, a speaker, a radio host, a woman on mission to bring self-love and self-acceptance into the world. And I'm just wondering if there's anything that you can't actually do at this point, Davina.
I'm a terrible cook.
Oh, okay, that makes us all feel good. So...
Well, that's not true. I just don't enjoy it yet. I'm practicing.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to our live show. And Carolyn and Nazda, thank you so much for having me here.
That's an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
So I think maybe we'll just dive right in, because I think it'd be good for everyone understands self-acceptance, right? But radical self-acceptance, I think, obviously takes it to a whole new level. What is that? What does it actually mean?
So, we talk about acceptance, we talk about self-love, but nobody teaches us how to self-love, right? There's no textbook for it. We're not taught this in school. I certainly was not taught this at my home or growing up. I grew up in India. And in fact, when we spoke about self-love, it was considered to be very selfish. If you love yourself, you're kind of like selfish. The concept did not exist, or maybe it existed, but I wasn't aware of it. So fast forward, here we are, I'm in Canada, and as I did the traditional thing. I came here for university. I had an arranged marriage, which is what we typically do in India when, you're single and of a certain age, your parents set you up. And I did all of that. I had a very successful banking career, but I was very unhappy. I would come back home after work and I would want to kill myself because I was so miserable. Not because I didn't do well at the bank. I did very well. I was very successful. But inside, something was just not working. And what was that? That was, now I look back at it 15 years later, I'm like, it was because spiritually there was just nothing within me. I was empty. I was making money, success, perfect on paper. And then, of course, as I was going through this banking career, I was depressed and my marriage was not working out. And at some point I was like, this is not normal. My parents want me to continue this. This is great. All my friends have this success on the outside. But what about what I want? What about, what's going to make me happy? So that's where this journey of getting to know myself started. And then I quit my banking job and I said, you know what? I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to be at a place where I'm suicidal. Literally, I was no. And so I quit that and I accidentally became a full-time dog walker. It wasn't part of my... I know.
It's kind of a vision of the dogs walking you, to be honest. But yeah.
Yes, it was so... I knew nothing about dogs, but one of the reasons I look back at it and I did it because I wanted to claim who I was. So that meant changing my programming and my conditioning from my childhood, where dogs are considered like just they're not acceptable.
Mm.
So I stood up to my parents for the first time, right? And of course I ended up having a divorce. So all of that happened at the same time. I became a full-time single mother, and then I was like, wow, there's life beyond parents, beyond
Mm.
family, beyond. I mean, I had the responsibility of my own family, but no husband, no. So it was kind of a different situation to be in, and something I never planned for. Nobody plans for a divorce, by the way. Nobody plans to lose a job, but
Mm.
all of that happened. And then when that happened to me, I fell into a love/dating addiction. And that's where Sexy Brilliant happened, because while I was going through this loneliness and this period, I ended up on, like, virtually speaking to many people. And anytime somebody would ask me, how are you? I would come back and say, always sexy, always brilliant. It didn't matter that I had like $5 to feed the kids, or it was like zero money, I was fat. It didn't matter. I would just say, I'm sexy, I'm brilliant.
Mm.
And the words I would say became my reality.
Yeah,
So
wow.
yeah, so like, really, I'm not making this up. This is exactly what I went through about 4 years ago. And and here I am. I can't even believe that I have a published book, and I have a radio show. Like, these are things that I feel it's like somebody else's movie, but it's not
Yeah.
my movie. So
How hard was it to get to that point? I mean, were you living somebody else's life when you were married and, working
um,
in the corporate world?
well, you know what? It was the only thing I knew about, right? My
Yeah.
parents had an arranged marriage. Everybody around me had an arranged marriage. Everybody around me had like a master's degree. So everybody around me had secure jobs. So this was my normal. But what now I look back at it, and I was like, normal doesn't mean right. And
Yeah.
what is right for me is not necessarily right for somebody else.
Mm.
So, it's how you look at things that ultimately. But what I knew is that I had a bigger purpose, and something was guiding me. So, that banking was great, but I was like, I'm making money for somebody else. I'm giving so much of myself here. But what about, like, doing something for myself and, living a passion-full life? So that's where that questioning started, and that's where that awareness is what kind of led to open more doors.
Yeah. Did you want to jump in, Nesh? Or?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everyone know, if you got questions for Devina, if you want to just jump in and comment on that, please do that as well, because it's not that we hear someone like Devina frequently, and especially in this time. So please feel free to do that. Devina, if I can probably wind the clock a little bit more and go back to your initial days, because as a migrant, I think, if you also put yourself in the shoes, Canada is probably not too different to Australia, just it's a bit colder. Um, you know, uh, but I think there's some similarities. And obviously, it's a Commonwealth. That's another one that is similar. But tell us about the initial challenges that you had, and did you kind of run into any? I don't know. Canada. In Canada, obviously, Indians migrated a long time back then Australia. So obviously, there was a lot of integration would have happened at that time. But tell us about your initial months and years in Canada, about your challenges and how did you overcome those?
Oh my! And I'm so glad you're asking this question, because um, sometimes we forget what it's like, especially when we're starting off, especially when we move to a new country, and like, my parents were born and raised in Pakistan. No, my parents were born in Pakistan, and then they became refugees into India. So I have this traumatic history, from my previous generations. So my parents were very ambitious. They're like, we want you to do very well for yourself, for your brother. So that was them, and I get my ambitious side from my parents. So especially my dad, but when I was here, I finished my university, and I remember it was very, very hard. You have first of all, you have no Canadian experience or North American experience. So anytime you would go, you would be like, you don't have North American experience, we cannot hire you. But if you don't hire me, how will I ever get North American experience? Right? So the logic was obviously, and I'm sure we all face discrimination in different ways, and it's a system that's broken. It's not necessarily the HR people, but it's the system that's broken. So then I had, my last name is Kaur. It's not, pardon me for saying that, it's not the normal, it's not French Canadian, it's not Canadian. So, there was a lot of racism. And the racism, interestingly enough, the most racism I faced was from people from my own community. So it wasn't necessarily the Caucasian person or that was giving me racism. It was the brown person born and raised in Canada who looked down at me for being an immigrant. I got called fresh off the boat. I don't know if you guys have that.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. So, and it's and I look back at it, I'm laughing, but at that point I was like, what is fresh off the boat? Like, I didn't even understand what it was. This is before Google happened, right? So and I was like, well, fresh off the boat, how do I change that? So what I started realizing was nobody was going to give me a job. So I said, you know what, okay, I need money. So I started babysitting. That was my first job, and I made $50 for the whole day. And I stayed at the family's house for 24 hours, and I was like, oh well, this was the satisfaction of making money. Making your own money was a new achievement, but at the same time, I was like, this was not something that you come mentally prepared for. You've got so much education, you've got everything going, yet you can't find a job. So from there, like getting that job, the nanny job, and then from there I realized that nobody was going to help me, but I had to start making my own contacts. So as it turns out, networking is one of my gifts, and I'm very, I'm not shy. So I would start picking up the phone and I would call and I would fake my accent, and I was like, listen, and I just kind of made my way into what I wanted at that time. And that happened to be a banking job. I started as an administrative assistant in a small office, did all the low paid jobs, and eventually got the banking job. But that was part of the reason, right? Like when you've struggled so hard and you've kind of made it, and then you're like, I'm going to give all of this out to walk dogs for a living. So that was part of the, like what is happening and who am I? So it's a constant questioning, the constant asking yourself, who am I? What do I want? What do I want next? And where am I going, kind of a thing.
That process around getting to really accept yourself. What you've sort of said, the constant questioning, who am I? Where am I going? Am I happy? What are some of those steps that were really the most effective for you, the ones that worked the most?
So I say this all the time, and I talk about radical self-acceptance. And what do you mean by acceptance? Is it like just accepting your flamboyant side, like I'm wearing a hair flower? Is it just showing up as yourself? But it starts from self-knowledge. If you don't know who you are, if you don't know your values, if you don't know what makes you happy, like for me, working with children was making me happy, but I was more ambitious than that, right? And so I kind of, so that's where it is. And as women, we're told don't be too ambitious than men, and this was my programming as well. I wrote a book about this. That's why I'm mentioning this. So I was like, stop laughing. You're too loud. You don't fit in. And then I also had this messaging where, stop eating so much because you're going to be too fat. And if you're too fat, you're not going to get married. And if you don't get married, it was like you're unlovable. So these are all these messages that I had. And, the too fat, too loud, too ambitious messages. And then that became my story. So what I heard from the outside became my story. So then here I was, like 30s, and I was like lost, broken, depressed, severely depressed as well. and saying like, where am I going? So I said, okay, um, I want to share this message. If I'm going through this, and I remember this, if I'm going through this, and I have so much going, yet I feel broken, and everything. So I said that other people are going through this, and when I started associating myself with everybody around me, virtually, but also here in my community, that's when I said, you know what? My mission is not only to kind of help myself, but it's also to empower people around me. So that's where it started. And to answer your question, where does acceptance come from? Acceptance is accepting not only the good side, but also the dark side. So the ambitious side, the ego side, the I have temper issues. I mentioned I'm not the world's best cook. So these are my weaknesses. So just by understanding myself, knowing myself, and then accepting all parts of myself.
And do you think that you're a lot harder on yourself than other people are hard on you? Is that?
I'm so glad you raised that question, because we all are. And I actually wrote this a couple of days ago. I wrote something like, the way we hold a microscope over ourselves, nobody else does. and I find it also very important that we hold ourselves accountable. We become the leaders of ourselves, but one of the things that I'm constantly doing is I'm working with a lot of professionals to just help me become a better version of myself. And I'm sharing this because we look down at therapists, and we look down at coaches, and we look down at mentors. And I used to look down as well, right? Like, I remember having these conversations with my mother. She's like, you should see a therapist, but don't tell anybody you're seeing a therapist. So so and I'm like, but why not ask for help? Why not just be the light that there is? And why should we all have to struggle with our mental health issues on our own? And right now with COVID and everything, who's not struggling, right? Like, we're all going through this. We're all in the same storm, just in a different boat. So it's important that we come up and we show up as our authentic self, and we empower ourselves, and then help people around us, and we all race together in our human consciousness.
Devina, if I can, sort of pick up on what you said around, authentic self, because I think I was listening to a TED talk around the paradox of authentic leadership or authentic branding, and the researcher says that if you look at the Google searches for the word authentic, it is astronomically high. But if you look at the amount of trust people have, it's astronomically low. So that so there's still a problem between how people want to teach other people to be authentic, but the trust deficit still exists. So there's some problem with it. If I want to sort of extend on that, what exactly does it mean for you? So when say a lot of people, and even I'm also guilty of using this, especially in the interview, I said, be yourself, and the client says, yeah, what do you mean by be yourself, right? Like, what do you see that, be yourself? Because there's always, I'm pretty sure that you are coming across as as confident, and this is who you are too. But there are times that you are not be yourself, right? So how do you manage that conflict, with that? Because sometimes you do get mad, right? It's not, yeah, be yourself, I shall get. So how do you manage that?
So I'm so glad that you're asking this question, because nobody's talking about this, right? So one of the things about authenticity is that like, and I feel this, and I experience this as well. There are two things that we as human beings do. One is we speak from our ego space, and the second is we speak from our love space. So, like, example, when I see a comment on social media, somebody left me a bad comment, my first reaction is to get angry. you know, and that's the right reaction as well. When somebody hurts you, you want to lash out as well. But then through your self-awareness, through like just realizing that people are at their different level of consciousness, at a different level of awareness, different circumstances, you kind of just take a step back and you're like, he can say what he wants. He can call me fat, he can call me loud, he can call me ambitious, he can call me stupid, he can call me whatever, right? It's how I react to that. So so when I see these, let's say these bullying comments, or controversial comments, whatever you call them, now usually, and I'm gonna say that usually, because I do have reactions as well. Usually, I'll take a step back and I'll just kind of ignore it, you know. And then when I've calmed down, I've kind of meditated, I've zened out, I'll go back and I'll usually ignore, but also sometimes come back and write a lesson, so that not only am I writing for myself, giving an explanation, but also all the people who are watching me, then you know, just also kind of taking charge of that situation and saying, I'm not going to react from my ego space, but I'm going to come back to my heart space. And the heart space is the love space. And how do we connect to the heart space, the love space? It's about constantly cleaning our own energy, constantly saying, I'm not going to blame my parents for what happened. I'm not going to blame my ex-boss for letting me go. I'm not going to blame COVID for my loss of income. I'm going to take responsibility for everything that's going on, because truly what we see, and the holy books teach us this, the Bhagavad Gita teaches us this, and even the Bible teaches us this. When we take responsibility for ourselves, we then can empower, you know, first ourselves and then change everything around us. So the more we do that, and it's a practice, we're all going to slip up, and that's okay as well. That's where radical self-acceptance comes in, to say, you know what, I lashed out at this guy because of anger, but I'm going to take responsibility, and even if I have to apologize in public, I am okay, I'm comfortable with myself to do that. And these situations happen with all of us. It's happened with me, and you know, it's going to continue to happen unless we are kind of being accountable. Self-ownership, self-leadership is
How has that helped you in your business and in your life, that level of self-acceptance? What have you been, what's this Devina been able to do compared to you know, corporate Devina?
So corporate Devina was very much in a box, you know, fitting in. Like, I wouldn't dare wear a hair flower, right?
I'm going to copy that. I love it.
It was normal. It was acceptable. You know, it was just being, how do we call that? Like a lot of it was robotic, 9 to 5. You know, excellent house, excellent car, wonderful family, perfect on paper. But what about the internal? So, you know, so then having all of this transformation, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do what I want to do with the vision that I have, and my vision, of course, is sexy, brilliant. And it's also interesting is, like, now I have a team of obviously people who are helping me with my business and everything. And I want to share a story, because we are on LinkedIn, and that's how we connected. When I first decided to come on LinkedIn, I was very reluctant. I was like, I'm not good enough to go on LinkedIn. It's too, you know, corporate, and like, what if my ex-boss sees me? What if my ex sees me? Like, they're all going to judge me. So these were the things that were coming, and they come from the ego space, and that's self-awareness again. And I discussed it with my team. I'm like, you know what? I'm bored of Facebook. I'm bored of Instagram. So they're like, okay, we're going to come up with a strategy, and you're going to follow X, Y, Z. And I was like, I looked at them and I was like, no, no, you guys focus on, you got enough work. You guys focus on what's in the back end. Let me take care of LinkedIn. So, but just by saying that, I will start kind of taking charge of creating content on LinkedIn, is when I said, you know what, I can do this. I don't always have to listen to the strategy and the millions of messages that we're all constantly getting. It's about what do I want and how can I best help myself, serve myself, because we're all here for a purpose, whether that's, posting on LinkedIn, whether that's going live on a show. And that's perfectly okay too. To know what you want is the first step. So, by just saying that I'm going to take charge of writing content, and that's where the game changed for me when I decided to own it.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's very true, because what me and KB feels that and we've been consistently saying this, that people can copy what you have done, but people can't copy your voice. It's very difficult for people to copy their voice. If I'm able to create something today, then I'm able to create another thing tomorrow, because people can't take away that creativity from me. Let's talk about the sexy brilliant movement, right? And you said it's a movement. Tell us more about it, and what is that you're intending to get out of this? Is it a global thing that you're planning to do, starting from Canada? And what do people get out of being part of
So,
this?
as I already mentioned, Sexy Brilliant really started from me overcoming an addiction, and like anybody who starts a business, anybody who has a vision, none of us know what we're doing. And that, by the way, nobody will tell you this, but this is true. None of us know what we're doing, right? We are figuring it out, and that's what happened for me as well. That's my cat.
It's going to make an appearance at some point.
Yeah, he's very popular. So for us at Sexy Brilliant, like, we are a registered nonprofit foundation, and our mission is to remove toxic shame. Now, what is toxic shame? For me, I've struggled with mental health issues. I'm an immigrant. I'm a full-time single mother. I've overcome an addiction. So just me in myself, I'm fat. I'm loud. I wrote a book, Fat, Too Loud, Too Ambitious. So just like, I have 100 things about myself that keep me in shame and keep me at low frequency, low vibrational energy. And if I'm going through that, I'm sure we all have that. So that's where Sexy happened, Sexy Brilliant happened. And then how I tell people is, sexy is whatever you want it to be. For some people, sexy is about being daring. For some people, sexy is about sexuality. For other people, it's about just showing up as who you are. So living unapologetically is sexy. It's a philosophy. Sexy Brilliant is a philosophy. And then what is brilliant? Brilliant is about shining in your light, to say that we are all divine creatures who are here for a bigger purpose, and a purpose even bigger than ourselves. We don't know it. None of us, have, as Steve Jobs says, we got to look back and connect the dots. And at some point it makes sense. So that's where it started. And 100%, nonprofit foundation. It's funded by Devina Kaur, and we're always looking for corporate sponsorship, always looking for donations. So whoever's here, say hi to me, okay?
We'll put a link in the comments too. So
yeah. And I want to mention that every time you purchase a book, the book supports the foundation.
Excellent.
Yeah. And we've got online courses about empowerment, we've got courses about money, we've got courses about health and being single. So there's a lot of free resources, but also right now we're it used to be about we're figuring it out, but right now we're looking for volunteers. So that's our new mission, to have a global community of leaders, leaders who are inspired from within, and that is part of that is being authentic, celebrating yourself for who you are, which of course comes from self-knowledge, and then we said this radical self-acceptance.
And what's been the most fun thing about doing that? Sounds like a lot of fun all around, but is there a particular highlight that that shines through?
My goodness, I want to mention something. I'm not a gifted writer. Like, I'm not a gifted writer. I'm an accidental author, and I say that in my bio as well. That English is not my first language, as you can relate, Nazde. And yet here I am. I wrote a book. I can't believe it. So the idea is that, you know, when we know ourselves, we know our dark side, we know our bright side. And when we say I'm gonna accept my weakness, I'm gonna call it weakness, that I'm not a gifted writer. When I decided to accept that, I got, you know, I'm severely ADD. That's why I kind of sometimes go off, and I apologize for that. So I when I said that, I don't know how to do this, but I want to do this. My desire to finish this project was so big that the right people started coming in my way to help me make this better. And I already mentioned coaches and mentors. Even watching this video, this is also part of the learning experience. So the right people started coming to help me write this book. It's taken me 3 years. It's like doing a PhD. It's never ending. But, you know, if I can do this and have fun while doing it, as frustrating as it is, you know, figuring out like a lot of what I do, it comes from, I'm an artist, so a lot of what I do comes from dreams. It's like vision. It's like meditation. So these are the things that I'm good at. And when that happens, I try to make them my reality and bring it all together, figure it out, ask for support, ask for help, come on live shows, have fun doing this. So this is all part of the journey.
We can absolutely feel that you are having fun, because 6 o'clock in the morning, and it feels like that this is your midday, and you got so much energy there. Tell us, because we will probably take one more question and then wrap up. Tell us, you are also training to be a yoga instructor or teacher. Tell us about that experience that you just had. You went to probably in a forest or a mountains in Canada somewhere,
Yeah.
and to tell us about why did you jump into that path, and what are you learning out of it?
Can I be really honest? My parents are both yogis. My father's a yoga teacher, and I grew up in India, so I have that background. But I've always had this love-hate relationship with yoga, because mostly hate, because my memories are about waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and being shoved out of the house to go do yoga with the family. So and as a result, I'm like, I don't want to do yoga. I do karate. I do that. But right now with COVID, everything is shut down. So when I wanted to take a break, I was kid free. Nothing was happening. Work was slow in the month of August. I checked myself into a yoga ashram. It was honestly, it was not with the idea of that. And I'm a certified yoga teacher, but my idea was for self-care, and then practicing more of spiritual life. And what I didn't realize is that yoga is not just about the physical, it's also about the lifestyle. So having that experience living in India with my parents as yogis, I had that experience of forgiveness, of constantly getting to know yourself, and this is all subconsciously. It's not something that is written on paper and I was told to do it. No, it was just part of our lifestyle and at home. So coming back here to Canada, doing this experience was like, yoga is beyond the physical. It's a lifestyle. It's spiritual. It's mental. There's a lot of learning. And by the way, if anybody's thinking about becoming a yoga teacher, let me tell you that it is one of the hardest experiences I have gone through. It was so hard. I come back from camp and I'm like, I need a holiday. So
that is tiring.
It was exhausting. It was like emotionally, physically, spiritually, so demanding. And then here I am. I have yet part of being sexy brilliant is also about me collecting a bunch of learning certificates and university degrees because I'm a full-time student of life.
Mm.
So it's about just learning and learning about yourself, learning about the world around you, and also eventually, when you're ready, you share your gifts with the world, whether that's through writing, whether that's through a live video, whether that's just creating content on social media. And I know you guys are in the career, your focus is the career and helping people with jobs down under. So it's about like using your skills as the best of your capacity to give back, to pay it forward. And everybody who's here, I encourage you to please share this video. Please, start collecting, changing your own karma by helping others, by leaving a comment, by sending it to your mother, or to somebody who lives in India. So we're all constantly in this flow of life where we're co-creating our destiny.
Yep.
Excellent. So that's pretty much it, Devina. Look, thank you again. Thank you for joining us. And my first my LinkedIn message, and you straight away said yes to do this. So we are so grateful that you could we could be able to organize that you can join us. But it's been fascinating chatting with you. I'm pretty sure that the listeners who watch this live and also the people who will listen through the podcast also will get tremendous value out of it. So we wish you all the best, and we wish
Thank
that
you.
you create many sexy, brilliant stories around the world.
I would love that. And as a giveaway, as a thank you, especially for the live audience, I'm giving away a signed copy of my book. So please reach out to Carolyn and Nazda or myself and let us know you saw this, and it will be my pleasure and honor to ship it to you free of cost anywhere in the world.
Oh, fantastic. Can I put my hand up for that?
Yes.
I'll just go under another name. I'm like, dear Devina, saw you on the show.
One for Carolyn and one for anybody else who's here. So all you have to do is message me, and if I can get a review out of this or anything, that would be fantastic. But just the idea is, it's a spiritual self-help workbook, and I just want to share that, if I may. So it's got a lot of
exercises
on it, and the book is called Too Fat, Too Loud, Too Ambitious, and you can check it out on sexybrilliant.org. But also just reach out and connect with us.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Did you want to wrap up, Nish? You look like
yes, absolutely. Yes, tomorrow we will be back. We are going to answer your tough job search questions, but tomorrow we will meet you at 3 p.m. Melbourne time. So bring your questions, and also bring your curiosity and listening, as well. So until we see you tomorrow, have a great evening, and we will do this again tomorrow 3 p.m. Until then, bye.